Birmingham people supported Tommy Charles' ban on Beatles records, and in the Bible Belt, some 40 other radio stations followed his lead. Worried that far-right extremist groups might try to become involved, Charles cancelled his plans for a Beatle bonfire, but many teenagers sent in their records and souvenirs to Wacky Radio nevertheless. Most of the young people I spoke to seemed shocked and offended at what John Lennon had said, though sometimes their answers showed that they weren't altogether certain what he'd meant.
How do you feel about what John Lennon said?
Well, I think the Beatles are a real talented group, but I think that they need to watch what they say, because they're in such a position that a lot of teenagers really think of them as something really big, and when they say things like that, some teenagers are going to just believe anything they say.
But are you burning your Beatles records?
Yes, sir, I burn them.
You burned them all yourself?
I've already burned them.
How did you do it? I mean, where? How?
Well, our Sunday school at MYF, we had a program about the Beatles, and we have supper at MYF, and it was in our backyard. So after we'd finished cooking the hot dogs, I just put my records on there.
Yeah, I used to like them. Well, I still like them, I guess. I mean, I like the way they write, but every time I hear them sing, I can't help but think about what they said, so. I don't know, I guess it sort of hurt. You know, it sort of hurt people's feelings, that, because, you know, everybody thinks so much of them, and, because, you know, they were sort of, you know, the speaking for the teenager, and everybody thought they were so good and all that. And then they come up with something like this, and it just sounds like they're making fun of everything that we like, so.
You took it pretty hard.
Yeah, I didn't appreciate it.
What John Lennon said really didn't have any effect on me because, well, I think for myself, and there's certainly no comparison between Jesus Christ and John Lennon, because I don't think that Christ came to be popular. As a matter of fact, he was one of the most unpopular people that have ever been alive. And there is no connection between the two.
I mean, I think most people are Christians and believe in God, and I'm just not used to this sort of thing.
You feel it's pretty shocking?
I sure do. I just don't appreciate it, and that nobody in the United States does either.
Why are people so angry about it down here then?
Well, a lot of people are good Baptists down here, and not to say anything against them, it's just that they feel everything about religion, they take it very personally, and maybe this intense feeling is too much, but that's what they feel.
Yes, I have 2 albums, and I definitely am going to get rid of them.
But why do you feel so strongly?
Well, I think every person should believe as he sees fit, and I just believe that I think I'm going to get rid of them.
But how about John Lennon? Hasn't he got the right to have his own opinion?
Yes, but I've got the right to have mine too. So I just think I'm going to get rid of my albums.
Why do you feel so strongly about it?
Because I'm a Christian, and so many people have built buildings in the name of Christ, and what have people done for the Beatles? What have they done for us? We've done more for them. We don't owe them a thing, and we can't just sit back and take it.
That I don't think they were comparing themselves to Jesus. I think they were deploring the fact that teenagers, you know, like rock and roll better than Christianity.
But John did call the Christ disciples thick and ordinary. Isn't that a pretty offensive thing to say?
Well, not really. I think I agree with them.
Were you upset by what they said?
Yes, sir. I was real upset. My whole family was. They couldn't believe that they had said that.
Why were you so shocked?
Well, I mean, I go to church and I listen to what people say, and I believe enough to, when something like that happens, for it to upset me.
Did you have any Beatles records yourself?
Yes, sir. I had about 4 albums and a lot of 45s, and I don't have them anymore.
What have you done with them?
I've given them to Wacky.
Well, I know in our church, a Baptist church here in Birmingham, well, our church took a firm stand. Sunday in the morning worship service, the chairman of the deacons made a statement which the deacons in our church had agreed upon, backing the statement that Wacky had said, that to ban the Beatles. They thought that this was good, and they firmly believe in everything that can be done to just about ruin the Beatles.
You want to ruin the Beatles?
Well, it really doesn't matter. I think it might be funny, but I guess that's sort of ugly of me.
Linda, you run this record store. How many Beatles records were you selling before this row started?
Oh, quite a few.
And since?
They've dropped off considerably because, I mean, maybe one a day, maybe one a week.
The store hasn't thought of banning Beatles records?
No. Of course not. We promote anything that sells.
You don't have moral principles like the
No,
young people
well,
here in business.
in other words, whatever sells, we're not questioning. We have many artists here. If we were to go into questioning everyone's morals in every record that we have, it wouldn't pay. I mean, it just wouldn't be in business, you know.
The Baptist and Methodist churches each claim over 10 million members in America, and in the South, their influence is strongest. At Canterbury Methodist Church in a smart Birmingham suburb, I asked Pastor Alan Montgomery why he'd got involved by condemning John Lennon.
The part of his statement that I was concerned with was that the Beatles were more popular than Jesus. And I think simply on the basis of statistics and fact, his statement is untrue. No one is more popular than Jesus.
After you'd issued your statement, you had a telephone conversation with Brian Epstein, the Beatles manager. What was that about?
In his conversation, he wanted me to understand that this young man was a very fine and a very religious young man, according to him, and that what he had to say regarding the church and regarding the popularity of Jesus, he meant to refer only to England and to the people of England and the Church of England, that he had no reference to America, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
This was, in essence,
How did the conversation go on?
Well, it got down to a place where perhaps was a little sticky. He said to me, "Do you think it becoming of anybody in Birmingham to criticize the Beatles? Because Birmingham is known all over Europe as the place where the Negro is treated so badly." Well, I thought these two things were far apart, and of course that was not the purpose of his call. It was a defensive mechanism on his part, and I thought it was perfectly meaningless and shouldn't have been inserted into this.
Would you tell your young people not to listen to the Beatles now?
I have 4 daughters in my home, 4 children who are daughters, and they all listen to the Beatles, and I don't think what has happened is going to cause them not to listen. My younger ones, who are 7 and 8 years of age, have Beatle pictures drawn on their little sports shirts, you know, and I'm not going to throw those away.